All right, we will go ahead and get started. It is 12:03. I will say that I got a note saying that the connection is weak, so I'm turning off all the video, at least for now, just to make sure that we'll maintain our connection online. So welcome, everyone. This is our HSTP Region 5 meeting. And we will go ahead and do roll call. So Lori will call the names, and then if your name is not called, then we will go around and do introductions afterward.
And Shelley Entricken.
Here.
Online. Barb Long. Audra Miles. Joe Coffin. Craig Boynton.
Here.
Anna Fuchs. David Luters.
Here.
Mary Patton. Allison Borland. Tracy Dowell.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Sunny Pearson.
Yeah.
Megan Brake. Alicia Dalt.
Here.
Tyler Rogers.
Here.
Alexandra Maxwell. Dawn Harper. Jody Scott.
Here.
Brad Siltman. Kylie Rathman.
Here.
Chris Mitchell. Connie Shiley. Jewel Ward. Greg Cassidy.
Okay, 11 in person. 10 with one short. All right. Well, we will move forward with introduction. So I know I noticed that some new people joined. So I will go around the room here. I think we have, oh no, there's one more person. Okay, so I'm gonna basically call your name and you can say where you're from and just introduce yourself. Please introduce yourself. Go ahead. Welcome. I think we got everyone in here. Oh, you know what? I'll move on to Tri-County staff so you can introduce yourself.
Ms. Long, Ms. Beal, planner at Tri-County, and
Okay, moving on to online. So I will, like I said, I'll call your name and just please introduce yourself. I'm gonna go with the order that I see on my screen. Brittany Burton.
Present.
Oh, go ahead. You say that again?
Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. I'm Brittany Burton, Assistant General Manager with We Drive You, and we power City Lift and County Link services.
Thank you, Brittany. How about Doug Dawson?
Hi, I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, and I'm going to do a presentation today on cellular coverage.
Our connection is a little bit choppy, but thank you, Doug. Yes, I will call your name shortly to start the presentation. All right, how about Henry?
Hi, this is Henry. I'm with Showbus Public Transportation, operating in Logan County, which is a new participant in this region. Thank you.
Hi, welcome, Henry. How about Julia Byers?
Hi, I'm Julia Byers. I'm here along with Doug Dawson for the rural cellular presentation.
Thank you. And Laura Dick? Laura, looks like you're muted. All right, well, I know that Laura is with Showbus, just like Henry. How about Sabrina from Ivy Silk?
Hi, it's Sabrina Benico, Independent Living Specialist at Illinois Valley Center for Independent Living in Spring Valley. We cover LaSalle, Vero Marshall, I'm in Stark County.
Okay, thank you. And that looks to be it. All right, so moving forward to public comment. Is there any, any public comment today? We got one person. All right, we just got a new person who joined. If your number ends in 0901, can you introduce yourself?
Audra Miles.
Perfect, all right. Okay, moving on to approval of minutes. So we are just one short of a quorum today, so I can't approve them. But does anyone have comments on either of these sets of minutes? Okay, all right. Moving forward to agenda item number 4, the rural cell coverage presentation. And let me bring this up on my end. So I will share my screen and one moment to bring it up. Share. Okay, so we have, hold on, it's loading here. Connection issues. Well, this is why I printed out the presentation today. So if I can't share it here, we have. So, I'm going to stop sharing because we're having some internet issues here, but I mean, anyone in the room, please grab the copy and send this to everyone. And if it does, sometimes it just pops up in the middle of the presentation and we'll see it on the screen. So we didn't do that. For being patient. Getting back to the. Oh, it does. It is shared. Well, now we have many options. I have many options. All right. Okay, so now I will introduce Doug Dawson and his colleagues. He's going to present about rural cellular coverage. There's been a recent study about this. And I heard a presentation about this a few months ago. I thought it was really interesting. I didn't know anything about rural cellular coverage. So this was brand new information for me. And Doug and team, I'll give you about 15 minutes and then I might give you just a verbal cue if it lasts longer than that, and then we can take some questions. And go ahead and take it away. And if you want change slides, just let me know.
Okay, very good. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear it? Very good. So I'm Doug Dawson. We did this study for the Peoria EDC, which covers 5 counties. And so what we looked at
Doug, you're going in and out.
nationwide. Yeah, boy, I'm on charter. That's might be a problem. So we did this we did this study for EDC, for Peoria EDC. It looks at every single county in the United States. The rural areas have worse cellular coverage than the urban areas. So today I want to give you a short technical description of why rural cellular coverage is just not as good. So next slide. It all boils down to 2 levels. One is the power level, which is how strong the signal is at the cell tower. And the second is the frequencies that are used. So go to the next slide. The reason that we have a power level issue, just pretend each one of these is a physical area at a map and that there's a cell tower in the center of each one of these. And so the reason that they limit the power is they don't want the signal from one tower to override and interfere with the neighboring tower. And so the way the FCC has done that is that they limit the power so that the signal carries just barely beyond the coverage of the little hexagon you see here. So you need a little bit of overlap because cellular, when you're traveling your car, you get handed from one cell to the next to the next. So they have to overlap, but they don't want to overlap too much. And so that's why it's called cellular, but that's also why there's a power restriction. If they could do unlimited power, the coverage would be a lot better, but they're just not allowed to do that. So next slide. This is the most important slide in here, and this is the slide cellular companies never tell you about. What happens with cellular signal is the signal gets very weak, very fast as you travel away from a cell site. So just pretend in the very center of the purple, there's a cell tower. And as you can see, these are from Ookla speed tests. So these are actual customer speed tests. These happen to be for cellular home broadband, but it's exactly the same frequencies, exactly the same towers, exactly the same technology that reaches your cell phone. And so these speeds are the same as what you would get on your cell phone too. And as you can see here, in the center of this tower happens to be in Michigan. When I've looked at dozens of cell towers, they all look exactly the same as this. And so right next to the tower, there's a customer who got a 306 megabits per second download, 21 megabits per second upload. Really wonderful speeds, right? The second ring is the red one. So by the time you pass 1 mile going into 2, you can see the speeds are down to the 70 megabit range. By the time you get to the third ring, you're down in the 20s. And by the edge of the last ring, you start getting down to the 10s. And then outside of it, speeds can be anything. Now, none of this is perfect because local factors, sometimes it can carry further and sometimes it carries even less than this. But this is what a typical cell site works like in an area where it's relatively flat. And so, you know, if there's hills and stuff, it's much worse than this. And so the thing to remember is cell signals don't go very far. So that, you know, and that's where the real problem comes in rural areas. So next slide. Urban areas all have good cell coverage, or just about all. And even pretty sizable towns have it. I'm sure Peoria has pretty good cell coverage because you have the tall towers, but you also have these things that I'm showing on here. This is a block from my house. That building happens to be where my accountant works out of. But that big tall thing on a pole is a small cell site. So in cities, they not only have the big towers, they supplement the usage with these smaller towers so that everybody is covered. They don't do those in the rural areas. You're not going to find those little towers in the rural areas. That little tower doesn't go 3 miles like the big picture. It goes a half a mile. So it's just for a neighborhood, but it makes sure my neighborhood has better, this happens to be Verizon, and make sure that we have better Verizon coverage right around my house. And so cities don't really have a problem. I live in a very hilly city. Even with these things, there's sometimes dead areas. But that's just because of the geography. Next slide. The other issue is frequencies. So there's been all sorts of we're up to right now to 5G, and each one of these new generations of cellular have used different frequencies. These are radio frequencies, just like AM, FM radio, just like your TV signal. Low frequencies, 600, 700, 800 megahertz, are spectrum that travel very far. And if you're older like me, you remember 20 years ago, you could take your cell phone into a metal elevator inside a building and still talk on your phone because they were using probably 850 megahertz in those days. And it just passed through everything like a knife through butter. Mid-range spectrum doesn't go as far. It does penetrate homes pretty well. And in fact, 1900 megahertz was the workhorse of the earlier cellular. And the vast majority of historic cellular networks had 850 megahertz and 1900 megahertz and nothing else. Nowadays, with 5G, we're starting to see these higher spectrums up in the 3 gigahertz range. And so what happens with a higher spectrum is it carries more information, but it goes even less distance, and it has much poorer characteristics of passing and side of things. So with 3.5 gigahertz, which already a lot of the 5G is on, you don't get it. My neighborhood grocery store, I used to be able to get a 4G signal on the very back of it, and today on 4G. And a 5G, I can't get any signal in the back of the store. And that's because they're using these higher frequencies. And then in cities, which is only really big cities, the closest one to you is probably Chicago. In Chicago, they use these really, really high frequencies. They only go about 1,000 feet, but they can do multiple gigabits of speed. They put those downtown in the business districts. They don't put them anywhere else. So the spectrum they use does make a difference. The older cellular technologies use the lower ones. The newer technologies use the higher ones. Next slide. This is a real map from the study we did. This is from Woodford County, and I'm going to have 3 maps in a row from this. It's not the whole county, but it's a fairly sizable chunk of the county. This happens to be Verizon. So this is data that comes from the FCC cellular map. And so what this is showing is 3 things. The gray stuff is where there's absolutely no cell coverage from Verizon. And if you all been to Woodford County, people are scattered everywhere. These areas that are blank, it's not because they're parks or anything. People live there. They just don't have any coverage. The darkest areas are almost surely towns. And there might be another reason they put one there, but for most of the cases, those are going to be towns. And then the pink areas are the areas outside the towns. Well, the way the FCC database works, the dark areas are where where Verizon says, you can get my Verizon signal when you're driving in a car. So that's, when you're outside your house, that's kind of what we use cell phones for. So you can see in this big giant area, there's not that many places where you can get them in the car. The pink is areas, and this is one that just blows all of our minds. This is where Verizon says you can get a signal if you're outside your house and you're standing, out in your yard. Well, those pink areas probably don't work very well inside the house. The closer you get to the dark areas, there's a good chance they work in your house. By the time you get to those outer areas, they're not going to work in your house at all. And on top of that, at the outer fringe of these pink areas, there's a really good chance you might have to walk around 10 minutes to find a signal. And that signal's only going to be 1 bar, and it's only going to do voice. It's only going to do text, and you're not going to be able to get a data connection at all at the outer parts of this. And so, this almost translates perfectly into the small area. The dark areas are kind of 5G. The pink areas are 4G. That's kind of how this also translates. So let's flip to the next slide once. This is AT&T, exact same map area. First off, you can see the dark areas aren't in the same place. That's because every carrier has their own towers. So they're not all 3 on the same towers. Each of them has a different tower they're on. These are roughly in the same towns, but if you want to flip back real quick, back and forth, you'll see that Verizon actually has more cell sites, like over here on the right. There's a couple cell sites in Verizon. If you go back to AT&T, they don't have cell sites at those places. So AT&T, now the other interesting thing here is AT&T says the strong coverage area is much larger. Understand the light orange area, which is the outdoor coverage, is much smaller. Now, both of these companies have exactly the same technology. So one of the two of them is exaggerating. I think they both are. I think AT&T is exaggerating the dark areas, and I think Verizon exaggerated the light areas. The fact is, they truly have the same thing. There's only a handful. There's only actually 2 cellular vendors in the world, and they all use them. So, third slide is T-Mobile. If you want to go to one more slide. T-Mobile they say big everything. We got a big dark area. We got a big walking around area. The fact is they also have the same technology. And so first off, we can't believe the maps because they're truly not accurate, because each of them have interpreted the exact same coverage in a very different way. These are also theoretical coverages. These don't account for hills and stuff that may make the actual areas smaller than this. Now, one thing you'll notice, which you don't have to keep flipping, but up in the upper left corner, none of them carry that area. People out there can't get cell coverage from anybody. Nobody's covering that part of the county. That's a dead zone. If you're driving up there in your car, you just simply lose cell signal, right? There's other, if you really compare the 3 of these, there's quite a few other little dead areas around here and there. Now, the real danger comes in when every 10 years we change technology, and around 2030, we're going to go to 6G. So we just, 5G came in now, 2020 or so, and then we're going to change to 6G. And when 6G comes, 4G is going to go away. So 4G is the one that's covering these light areas, and 6G is much more like the dark areas. And what we're going to see when that happens is already in this county, there's a lot of dead areas. A lot of those light pink areas are going to turn into dead areas. So as we transition to get away from 4G to 6G, we're going to lose we're going to lose a lot of coverage, which is really sad because even today, I mean, you all know when you go to rural areas, there's a lot of bad coverage. A lot of places people can't get it in their house. A lot of places they can't get it when they drive. And this is not unique to the counties in your group here. This is everywhere in the country. This is just how it works. And so we're really, and no one seems to be talking about this issue. It's guys, 6G is really wonderful for the pink area, the dark areas, because it's way more bandwidth, it's way more coverage, way more devices, but it's really going to be bad for the rural areas. And so we're simply going to see the gray areas get a lot bigger, which means areas with no cell coverage. And quite honestly, the only alternative is to build cell towers, and they're not going to build cell towers in those areas. There's not enough people. They've been ignoring them already for 50 years. They're not about to go and build towers now. So unfortunately, this is not a real positive talk I'm giving you. The answer is we're really facing a crisis where coverage is already bad in rural areas. And in 5 years, it's going to start getting worse. So, policy-wise, we're going to have to start pounding on state and federal politicians to go, hey, guys, we got to have a fix for this stuff, because, I work in hundreds of counties, and I have just as many complaints that bad cell coverage is a economic issue as bad broadband. We've taken a lot of grants and stuff to try to fix the broadband, but we're not doing anything to fix the cell coverage. So that's my presentation. I don't know how I did with my minutes, but be glad to answer questions. Is there one more slide? Might be one more
Looks like-
slide. Oh yeah, here's where I talked about 6G coming in. So just to remind you. So yeah, so 6G is going to come in, 4G is going to go out. That's just really bad. The last slide is a really pretty picture of me standing by some terrible telephone poles and the way to contact me. I do write a daily blog about exactly these issues. If you're interested in reading it, it's right there at the bottom of that slide. So
Nice. Yeah, thank you, Doug. I will open it up to questions if anybody has any questions for Doug. And if not, I have some. All right. Maybe this is a simple question, but who pays for the cell towers? Is it the companies themselves? So it's their choice where they put them and how many they put up?
it's their choice where they put them, and they originally paid for all of them. About 10 or 15 years ago, they actually sold them off to other companies who now operate them. But so they actually rent them from somebody they sold them to, but they're the ones who decide where to put them. If you put up a new tower, they're not automatically going to come to it because there's still very expensive electronics at every tower. And so they do the math. They go, this cell tower can only see 400 people. It's just not worth putting the electronics there. So that's why the rural areas don't get the towers. So there's really no towns in the United States that aren't covered. They cover the towns because that's how they make their money, is selling cell service. So towns are good. Suburbs, like the outer suburbs of Peoria, they might be more like the rural. When you start getting to the fringe of the cities, they're not always good. But I'm sure Peoria is actually great. But then the further away you get from town, then you hit these slides. So.
Okay. I guess a question for any transit providers in the room. If you had issues or complaints from people who have trouble with, cell service when requesting a ride or things like that.
Most of the people that call me that have problems with cell coverage with when requesting rides are people in Woodford County. So it goes right along with I get some in Fulton County, but for the most part, it's Woodford County and looking at El Paso, Minunk, the far ends of Woodford County.
And Woodford County, of the 5 counties in our study, had the worst coverage. That's why I picked those maps. So yes.
Go ahead, Kylie.
Doug, how does the service in the rural areas help with emergency services? I mean, how are they able to
Well,
reach emergency services?
and that's the problem, because if you're outside and you don't have any cell coverage, you can't call 911. That's exactly the problem. Now, today, we're in the very fringe of you're able to now, if you have an iPhone and a few other phones, you can actually make a 911 call to a satellite. And within about 3 or 4 years, we're going to have that everywhere. So it's not going to be the equivalent of cell coverage. I mean, but you're going to be able to you should be able to make a 911 call from everywhere. Today, you just can't. There's a whole lot of places where that's why you always hear about people in parks get lost and they can't make a call because there's no cell coverage, so, but that will be fixed. Right now, it's in the kind of the test stage, and in a couple of years, it should be everywhere, which is nice. So at least 911 is going to be covered everywhere.
Okay. And can you remind us which counties were part of this study?
Sure. That was Woodford, Tazewell, Peoria, Mason, and Logan.
Okay. And then do you know of any other?
And I'm sure that you can get a full copy of that report from Kathy over at ADC. So, yeah.
Are there similar studies? Do you know in Illinois? I know that you specifically worked with the EDC.
I have not seen another study just like this in Illinois, but I have given the maps to probably 4 or 5 other counties in Illinois, but they didn't do a formal study like this. So yes. So there are other people who have heard this story. So yeah.
Okay. And then my last question, if we want to see the coverage maps, is that something we go on the websites of Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile?
No, the FCC has the data, but they don't map them like we did. But I gave for all 5 of those counties, I gave a whole bunch of maps to Kathy at EDC. I mean, she can give you the full maps. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the room or from online?
I have another question. I'm sorry. So you see the commercials of the cell services that cover areas. Those are embellished.
I was going to use the word hogwash, but yeah, they're embellished. They want to say they cover everywhere, and anybody who's driven 10 miles out of any town goes, this is not true. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Any last questions, comments? All right. Well, obviously, transit is deeply connected to this because you have to call and request a ride in rural areas. If you can't call, then that is another way that you can't reach your destination.
And I'm
so
going to
thank
guess.
you.
And I'm going to guess most people are calling you from their broadband connection, not their cell phone connection. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Doug. We appreciate your presentation. It's very interesting. All right. Oh. Okay. We're going in and out with our internet signal. Speaking of coverage. There you go. Very apt. Okay. well, I think I'm gonna move on. If anyone wants to type in the comments, just in case we're having connection issues, then I will check them. Oh, there we go. So Tracy said Marshall and Stark have spotty reception as well, which does make it difficult for some people to make transportation reservation, as many people are using cells rather than landlines. Okay, well, thank you, and we will move on. Okay, so my next thing is the HSTP document update. And got a little presentation here as well. We'll bring that up. Okay. So, make sure this is sharing right. Okay, all right. So periodically, every few years or so, we update our HSTP document. And this is just a document that talks about, kind of lays out the region, what, you know, transit issues we have, demographics, things like that. Spring next year. And this is requested by IDOT, so we're working on it for our region. So the update for today is demographic maps. And as you heard from our new Logan County partners on the call, we are officially adding Logan County to our region. So not only are we updating our maps, but we are adding county. So I'm going to go through just some visual representations of what we have started to visualize and create for our document. And so these are demographic maps that show our whole region, and we've mapped different types of populations. So this one shows population with a disability. You see the concentrations within each area. And this is by, is it census block group or census tract? Okay, so we can use this information to identify where there is the highest need. And here's another example, percent of seniors. This one is kind of not quite as obvious as the other one, but it's just interesting to kind of look through these. And I can send these to you later if you want to examine them further. But just wanted to show an example of what we've been working on. So this is percent living in poverty. So these folks have a higher need for public transit, and all of these types of demographics as well. And so we map the region and we map the urbanized area just so you can zoom in on if your agency focuses on the urbanized area. And it is the same map. So we'll have seniors in the region, seniors in the urbanized area, et cetera. So this is another type of demographic that we're looking at, minorities. You can see specifically in the urbanized area where the concentration is. And then veterans. And you can tell that they are spread out in different ways. So these maps just kind of make us think about where coverage is needed and for whom. And we have youth population. This is one that we included because you know, youth cannot drive. So they have a higher need for transportation. I think that's the end. So yeah, just wanted to showcase that we're working on those maps, and that is one of the first steps to create this plan. And
Maps online, Rima.
not yet,
No.
but I can send you this as an update so you can look at them. But yeah, this will be as part of document itself. Let me find another thing that we're working with is the surveys, and this I will ask for your assistance on. So last time we had, you around last time, a year ago, a couple years ago, we had 4 surveys from the Rural Transit Assistance Center. And this is an organization based in Macomb. They provide and they had created these surveys for us to distribute to actually all the HSCP coordinators across the state. So we used the same exact surveys so we could compare theoretically. They did an overhaul of these surveys. They were kind of similar, so we didn't lose kind of the same idea of them. But instead of having instead of having 4 different surveys, we're going to have 2. They have the same, it's the same, covering the same demographics and groups that we did last time. But originally there was provider survey, agency, community, and rider survey. So 4. Now we just have agency and community. And essentially, so the agency one, I did print that out today. I will start with that. Let me share it on here. And sure it's visible. Okay, so this one, I'm going to, well, really, I'm going to ask for your assistance with all of them. But if you represent an agency and it does say human service agencies, elected officials, churches, other organizations, I'm going to lump public transit providers in here as well. So everyone is covered. So I'm going to give you this survey and I'll ask one person per agency to fill it out on behalf of your organization. So this is a snapshot of what it looks like. Basically, I want to know what you do. So what does your organization provide? Does it provide transit?
Over here.
Even if
It was off. Oh,
we got someone coming off of mute here. Even if your organization does not provide transit, you would still know things like what your clients need in the region, and what is missing, or maybe what's working well. So this is a survey that asks questions like that. It is 2 pages, so front and back. I did print this out, so if you prefer to fill it out on paper, you can. I will email it. And actually, we do have a fillable version that we've created in the office, so if you prefer to fill it out that way. It doesn't matter to me, just different options. So once again, this is kind of internal. We do ask for which, like the name of your agency. So this one is not anonymous, but and we can talk more if you have more specific feedback that I'd love to hear. But that's kind of a snapshot of your agency. And then once we have all of them, we'll see the context of who is providing what, which gaps exist and where. Okay, so that's the agency survey. Now let me switch to the community survey. This one is, share it. All right. So this one is for riders and non-riders. So if you just simply, if transportation, public transit, you can talk about that public transit. If you don't, you can talk about what you would use public transit for. And then I'm saying you, but this is anyone who fills out the survey. So this is kind of just public. And if you have transportation needs, where specifically slide are you? So these are very similar questions to what we in the previous format. It's essentially the same with some minor tweaks. Okay, we're back. And I think that's pretty much it. Let me make sure I covered all my notes. Yes. So this one, I didn't print it out yet, but we will send an email. There will be a fillable version online, so you could send a link. Or, if you prefer to print it out, and if you want to print out several copies, then you can let us know. We could do a lot of printouts for you. That. Um, so what we're going to do with the community survey, I know that it can be tricky to collect those responses. So we're thinking of doing ride-alongs, which we've never done in this region, but let's go ahead. So if you represent a public transit agency and if you're okay with us shows up on my end. Okay, here we go. We're back on. So if you are okay with us writing your service, talking about this survey, then we would love to do that. And all of the feedback from these surveys will basically give us data to create recommendations for our region. So we get a lot of surveys that say this specific town, whatever it is, I really need to get to it, but I struggle, then that might be a specific recommendation. Or like too expensive. Many people say that might be a specific recommendation. So these will all build into the data to provide it for the plan. And one last thing is that so simultaneously for the last year, we have been doing a bus stop accessibility study that is based in Peoria, specifically CityLink fixed route. For that, we have done a specific survey for that. So we will kind of, they're different surveys. We don't want to double survey people. So this Hstp community survey that I'm mentioning now, we will not ask people to ride CityLink. Don't want to have, double respondent. So this one will be more rural and non-Peoria. That way we'll cover all the bases, and we will have both survey responses in the final document. So hopefully this is the best of both worlds. Focus on urban with stuff that we're already doing, but this, in this case, more emphasis with rural areas. All right, let's see. And I think that's about it. So we will contact all of the public transit agencies to work together. And if you are not a public transit agency, we might also contact get more ideas about how we can get more survey response. So that was a whole lot, and I'm going to stop there and ask for questions, comments. What are your thoughts?
Maybe looking at.
Great question. So the agency one, since it's one per agency, I'll send this by email. I'm thinking August 26th. This is about 2 weeks. I'll send that in an email. You can take here, want to fill it out right now and hand it to me, then you'll be done for 2 weeks. I will send you a link regardless. For the community survey, we don't want to leave it up for too long, maybe a month or so, but we will confirm once we start to work with different agencies to have ride-along, maybe a pop-up event at a Walmart, something like that. So I'm going to say a month or so. We don't, because if we keep it up too long, then it doesn't really help. But too short is not helpful. So we'll Goldilocks spot there. Yeah. Long story short, I'll let you know approximately a month.
You'd be opposed to phone surveys?
No? Yeah, we could do that.
Meaning like I've got volunteers that this for grants and things. So a little bit lengthier of a survey than what we've done, but might get more respondents from my population phone surveys.
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. I'll make a note. Yeah. Okay. Any last comments? Okay. That's coming, and we are. So this is all to say that we are doing all this work behind the scenes. We can only do so much without all of you. So, yeah, we have our office, but you guys work directly with the people who use it. So hopefully we can get some good feedback and ultimately have direct recommendations that are actually relevant to everyone in your counties. Okay, so moving on. To losing people online. Okay, we're in and out of the internet signal, so let's just start online. And you can give a very brief update about your organization, and if you're new, maybe just talk about your organization in general. And if not, you can give an update. If you don't have one, then that's also okay. So I'm going to call on you and know what you got. How about Audra Miles?
No update.
All right. Brittany Burton.
No updates at this time.
Okay. How about Henry from Showbus?
Oh,
Looks
sorry
like
about
you're
that. I was
muted.
finding the unmute button. If Laura can give an update, that would be best. Thank you.
Sure, I'll hand it to Laura then. Hey, Laura. We heard you for a second.
Oh, did you?
Yes. Yeah, you're good.
I have a new laptop and I do not understand it at all. Yeah, we are new to this region. We serve in Logan County. So we're just here really to, as an operator from Showbus, and I'm sure there'll be other participants from Logan County as we move into the area.
All right. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank
Okay,
you, and
moving
thanks for
on.
your patience.
Oh, yep. Thank you, Laura. Moving to Sabrina from Ivy Sill.
Hi, we don't have anything to report.
Okay. How about Shelley Intrican?
No updates, thank you.
All right. Last one I see online is Tracy Dowell.
So we are at capacity for our drivers. We lost one in June, and so we've gained a couple more. We're still waiting for one of our vans to be disposed of. And very happy to see that the CVP applications are out because we've got a lot of vans that we've been putting a lot of repairs into. So I'm glad to finally see that.
Yes. That's a good reminder about C. Yeah, and I will briefly mention CVP later as well before we end. Okay. All right. That's everyone online. So let's start over here. Got any updates? All right. Sounds good. Megan?
No, start with back in place.
Go ahead, Kylie.
Hi, again, Kylie Rothman with the labor rights. And the reason I wanted to go ahead and be help to everybody is not for me, it's basically anybody with transportation needs, drivers, things like that. I'm able to help with that. We do non-CDLC, CDL, C, CDLB. And when it comes to CDLA drivers, those would have to be direct hires. But I do have a resource pool full of drivers that are looking for work. Anybody can do that. We also are hiring for specific positions, so if you yourself looking extra income, please feel free to pass this along to anybody, any age 18 or older. We can get people to work for added income, or just an entry level position in another one. And for the people online, if they could hear me, because I am losing my voice, but if, do you mind adding that to your email?
Yeah, I can do that.
I appreciate that. If anybody else has any questions about how we can help, please reach out. Thank you.
Right. Yep. I will scan this and add it in my follow-up email.
Appreciate it.
Tyler, you got anything? Okay, Jody.
I don't really have any updates. I do know that we have a hold on September 16th for the statewide Center for Independent Living and HSTP coordinators meeting at this point in time.
Right. I know you maybe have a big update. If you want to share it.
The city and the county have both now approved the intergovernmental agreement for countywide transportation. So we are moving towards countywide transportation.
Right. Big deal. That's really big. I hope it goes well.
I just looked at the numbers for last year and without countywide, we're up 36% on private transit the year before. So
Oh,
it'll be interesting.
okay. Well, we wish you luck. All right, go ahead, Dawn.
We recently did the travel training with City Group last week. We do another one with them. We are just opening up a new building off of Pioneer Parkway. We hold our community employment, our career center, and our behavioral health there where they do waffles. So that just recently opened up. Yeah.
I drove past that the other day. It's like, how long has this been here? I guess it's new.
Community employment over there now. Career center's over there, and then the walk-in.
Okay, any updates on Snyder Village? Okay.
I don't know if we really there, but I'm for their CPS program, they're now.
Is that local? Never heard of them. Well, I'll look it up.
And it's new, isn't that because the city of Beacon's no longer doing the school bus, so now it's this, yeah, all town bus.
Stay local.
That's good to know. All right, Alicia.
So I have a guy that wants to buy us a bus. Not a brand new bus, but a used bus, but a nice one. Like, having a hard time finding a bus that he wants to buy us. So if anyone has recommendations, on where he should go, this has been probably for, I know it's what it is. I'll take a bus. I'm good with it. I just don't really know where.
Anyone have a recommendation?
Or to buy a nice used bus. I think he's no longer hung up on the color. He was hung up on a color for a while. It's his money. If anyone has a suggestion.
Look, there's a company over in Indiana that sells used buses.
Maybe what? Yeah. State.
Yeah.
If you want to. Okay, Indiana, like where? Where do I
I
need
did
to?
a Google search. That's when I was looking for it. So I was fighting. I'm trying to get
Colorado's
it.
Yeah, I know somebody. Okay, great. Colorado. If we want to take the trip there, I don't know. Right? Yeah. It doesn't happen ever. So I'm like, yeah, we'll take your bus, we'll take it, but anyway, that's. I didn't.
You can also check with Midwest Transit and see if they have any trade-ins.
And is that the one, is it one or Pinky? Okay. That's the website I was kind of looking at.
And those would meet your specifications anyway.
Stupid question, but what would the Peoria Park or Beacon Park District use?
So I run the senior center there.
Oh,
We
gotcha.
also have a special program as well, so. Like I take on different trips for we, that kind of thing, but then also our special rep for Special Olympics thing.
That's awesome.
Okay. And if my wheelchair is down, I use the bus to actually transport seniors to their point, which is not ideal. Yeah, but been a nicer bus.
I think there's one down south called Southern Bus and Mobility. I've seen them at conferences. I don't know much about them, but I think they also sell the gold. And so, you know,
Take that far, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Sit. Yeah. Not a bad drive.
How big is it? Like 15 minutes. The CDL, one that I can drive. Yeah.
14 plus 1 or lower.
We're going, ran for, but we went out of state. They're coming Thursday. So then what are you doing with your old one? You know, oh, they keep putting it. Okay. I don't want the break. I thought about it like we've had a couple senior housing places closed up. And I'm like, well, I'm seeing a bus sitting there in their parking lot. Where's that going?
Well, another contact them, contact Gus Waxman, IDOT, works on like the locals of the buses, and with everybody going off with the CDP, maybe folks are making do. Jeff Waxman.
He's amazing.
I didn't give him his name because I don't want to kill me if I could call.
Like getting rid of old bus.
Yeah.
I have one, but it's really, really broke. I don't want a new engine. I want one to be broke one too.
Yeah.
Piece it together. Still dry.
Definitely. We've got some. And he will provide you with the information of the original. And then they'll provide you with like analysis of what's going on, some what repair,
Okay.
whatever. And then you can back them. Yeah.
Even down to who's paying. I even wanted to make sure that that was resolved for you. That's a very thorough.
Okay.
I've got his contact information, so I can add it to my update. Hey, Sonny, you're the last one?
There is nothing transportation wise going on with the Central right now. I will say that we are still providing bus pass, reduced fare bus passes and transportation vouchers. But other than that, all direct service has now been outsourced to your air or MSW. So, and then transportation, I thought I was missing one. So we're no longer providing direct services, but if and always music fun thing the summer. So
Hey, and I see that it's one. I think that we might change the timing of this meeting. We've been going over just a little bit. So maybe it'll officially end at 1. We won't go too long over. We just have my report, but it'll be just a few more minutes. Does anyone else have anything else they want to share? Did I miss anyone? Okay, moving on to my coordinator report. I have, like I said, just a few small things. So I wanted to mention the Illinois Public Transit Association. The conference is coming up on in early October, and it's at similar time as the national version of that, AFTA. So the way they're doing it this year, they're both in Chicago, and IPTA will be. No, I didn't write down the specific dates. They're on October 5 and 7. IPTA it costs like a few $100s to register, but for APTA, you can go. The registration is free for the expo. It's called the Transportation Expo. IPTA recommends if you want to go to both, you can sign up in that way. if the state version and then the APTA, just the expo, sign up for the actual APTA conference, then it's a lot more money. So I will be at that conference, combined conference on October 5th, 7th. That's the reason we're moving our October meeting one more week afterwards. And they do have hotels available on their website. Another update, so in early July, I made a couple visits. I traveled to Macomb. I met with their HST coordinator to talk about kind of HSTP in general, what we're doing here, what they're doing there. And I also traveled to Lincoln to meet with our new Logan County partner. So we made that connection, and we're happy to get the ball rolling there. And eventually we will explore updating the bylaws to ensure that they have a vote on this committee. So look forward to that in coming meetings, but I didn't want to do that right away, just so we can get a quick feel of what this means beforehand. So we will talk about bylaws in the future. And my last thing is that yesterday there was a webinar about CVP. I think maybe everyone here knows to this if you want a vehicle. So it is a competitive process. It does take quite a bit of work. So this webinar that I sat in on yesterday was very helpful to walk through all the different parts of the application. And it is saved on Black Hat. So if you don't know what that is and if you want to learn more, please let me know. I can. And yeah, you can watch that webinar. It was very helpful. If I find a link, I can try and send it in my update email, but I think you do have to sign into Black Hat. So I'll let you know what I find out. And I will stop there because I don't want to go too far over time. But let me see. So I'll hop on to other, and I'll just ask, does anyone have anything else that was not mentioned?
Do we have anything coming up? Anything?
Any votes? Hopefully for bylaws. It won't be the next meeting. It'll probably be in December if we can swing it. Because I want to show a draft of the bylaws before anyone votes on them. So I'll start working on those and we'll hope for December.
I just have follow up. I remember a vote that we did regarding how we were gonna, certain areas that were requesting our funding to have projects done. And I remember that we one where that Jonas, Stony Creek, that intersection there from the bus stop, the walkway, that hasn't happened yet. I was wondering what's the timeline.
Yes, okay, so for everyone else, you're talking about the Section 5310 urban funding.
Yes.
And that the FTA basically gives us funding, well, not as easy as they give it to us, but we have funding that we can apply to do different projects that improve the mobility of seniors and people with disabilities. The last time we went through this process, there was a project that came up at the intersection of Main and Mariners Way, East Peoria, next to Jonas Seafood and Stony Creek Inn. We are basically working through the admin stuff background with that. So it's kind of taking a little bit longer than expected. Shocking.
Right.
It is related to the government. So, but we're kind of doing the slow beginnings of that one. Yes.
The engineering part of it.
Yes.
From what I'm in.
So that funding will pay for the.
The only reason I brought it up is because Stony Creek is one of my clients.
Oh, okay.
And I've recently obtained, and I have girls that travel on the bus there. And they recently complained about how dangerous it is to cross over that intersection. So I was like, oh, wait, I thought we had a project that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, eventually.
That's an update. Thank you.
It's in the works. Not quickly, but it's in the works.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Any last thing to add? All right. Okay, so our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 13th. That is 1 week later than we normally do. And it'll be here at noon. And yeah, so we will adjourn at 1:08. Thank you everyone for coming. I appreciate you working through IT struggle, but we always make it through. Thank you.